right, guys, we're rolling into part three. And so I left you hanging on the last one. And we primarily are talking about the fact that
Freaking
my
out, man.
freaking out, man.
Freaking out.
My mom has had a significant, so for those of you just hopping into this one, my mom had a stroke a couple of weeks ago. She was admitted to hospital, then rehab, and there has been a slew of different things that have unfolded. So listen to the prior to podcast if you want to get the whole scoop on how to be your own advocate or be an advocate for others inside of a hospital setting. And then also, one of the best ways to get yourself out of fear, get yourself out of this desperation, I need to save this person, and get yourself into a place of inspiration, which will actually create better outcomes for the individual. Those are the two podcasts that we recorded in this series. But one of the things that they have been recommending is medication for her anxiety because she has been having some panic attacks. And my mom does have a history of this, and she has been essentially medicating herself and, you know, getting rid of these panic attacks through medication. So,
Or alcohol.
and alcohol, yes. And very interesting thing unfolded that we're going to talk about. And we're going to actually lead with how panic attacks can actually be exactly what your body needs and can be very beneficial. So,
What?
what? Yeah. So I'm going to say this because this is very out of character for me. For those of you that have been listening to us for a really long time, maybe you've worked with us, that I've always been like the scientific analytical brain of the duo here. And
She's been the alpha too. She wears the pants. I'm not even
Listen,
wearing pants right now.
yep, yep. Always and forever. Per sempre, as we say in Italian. And but over, the past few years, having our son, moving to South Carolina, moving to Italy, I've been on my own journey to work through shit that was holding me back and become a better version of myself. So, tapping more into the psychology, the somatic, the energetic, and being really vulnerable with myself of the past childhood programs that actually helped me become a successful entrepreneur, but then 10 years in were actually holding me back. So I want to preface with that so you have like a little bit of a background. So essentially, in this new version of myself, I'm a lot more intuitive. I'm a lot more sensitive to picking up on people, behaviors, energy, vibes, whatever the fuck you want to call it. And my mom and I, obviously, she made me. We were entangled in an energetic capacity. We are also of the same DNA. Obviously, I am a blend of my mom and dad's DNA. So, in the event that she has had this stroke and been going through this journey, I've been feeling weird things in my body. So the stroke that she had created, it was the right side of the brain, created left-sided motor issues. She still is having mobility issues in her left arm, but amazing enough, she has mobility back after 3 weeks or so in her leg. But we were about 2 weeks in, and I was like sitting here actually in this very seat, and I was like, oh my God, like it was my left arm. And I was like, my left arm literally feels heavy, like numb. And I said to Nick, I go, what the fuck? And he was like, oh, look at you being so energetic and feeling your mom's stuff. He's like, welcome to my world. And I was like, yeah, I don't like this shit. So anyway, fast forward, we went to Elba, which is an island here in Italy, and we were enjoying a vacation. It was Ferragosto, and the beaches were packed, and all the beach clubs were packed, and we're like, shit, we really didn't plan. I was feeling a little off that day, just kind of really feeling like the heaviness of my mom's situation. She wasn't cognitively great the day before when I talked to her, just feeling it. So we went and we're like, all right, our only option is to maybe set up shop on these rocks, kind of like a jetty for those of you that live in the US. Set up on there, and we'll just kind of like hang out there because there's no spots on the beach. I've walked on rocks, jetties many times in my life. And for some reason, I was really freaking out. I was like, my threshold was very low. And I had a lovely panic attack. And so I was like, okay, yeah, so this is interesting. And talked to my dad later in the day. Turns out my mom had a panic attack that day. And one was really acknowledging how intertwined family members can be. And this goes back to the first podcast in this series is how you being taking care of yourself in times like this where there's a health crisis in the family is your top priority. Because if you especially share DNA with the person who's going through the health crisis, you can actually help their outcomes by helping yourself. And you can help them by also being the most grounded version of yourself.
Granted,
So,
just being meaning being present.
being present, 100%. But we have our lovely friend Eric, who lives in Jersey. I'll give him a shout out, Eric Morris. He got into breath work a couple of years now, I think. And last time we were in Jersey, he was like so excited and he came over to the house we were staying at and he's like, "Can I do a breathwork session with you?" And we're like, "Hell yeah, let's do it." And essentially, he took us through, this guided breathwork session and the instructions were to breathe rapidly, to like breathe almost essentially the same exact way your breath changes when you have a panic attack. And so had that panic attack on the rocks and I sat with it after. Well, first of all, I felt fucking radically better afterwards and I was like, that's interesting." And then two, I sat with it and I was really thinking about it and I was like, holy shit. Panic attacks are actually your body's way, your mind, your body's way of releasing. It literally induces a style of breath work that helps you release things, energy or emotions that are trapped in your body. And it was just such a fucking aha moment that I was like, holy shit. We put this label on it. Panic attack sounds horrible, sounds terrible, like I don't want those. When it's actually essentially like a breathwork release. And
Yes, but
what
I
do we
mean
do? We numb
that's what
them.
a seizure is too, and just more for the neurological system to reset.
Mm, that's a topic.
Yep, could be another one. But your body globally, it's to understand your body's never making mistakes, man. Like
Yeah.
whether we call it a disease, whether we call it a panic attack, whether we call it a seizure, like your body is always actually doing its best to maintain balance. So what, like you said, a panic attack was it's the body trying to create space through an increased amount of oxygenation to be able to actually release everything that you've been holding in.
And even old
Fucking
shit
brilliant.
though, like,
Fucking brilliant.
yeah.
What's very cool is that you can, like I said, with breath work, you don't have to wait to have a panic attack. You can do different types of breath work to actually create more of that oxygenation, to create more space, to be able to release that stored tension and balances from the body. So, and that tension, on the scientific, people are like, oh, that's fucking woo-woo. It's like some people explain your breath is regulated by the mind. And that regulation comes from actually the heart is what regulates breath. Because the heart is actually what regulates the diaphragm neurologically, etc. But that process from the mind is everything comes into us consciously and or unconsciously if we're just using our old patterns and belief systems. But we either see that in the state of balance and then we have a balanced breath, we're not overly sympathetic, we're not overly parasympathetic, we're just in a state of balance. That's the groundedness, that's the present we're talking about. But if we see more good or more bad, more benefits or more drawbacks, that's an imbalanced perception. And then that changes the mind to the body, that we're overly excited or we're overly fearful, sad, angry, etc. Name the feeling. That changes our breath to be overly sympathetic or overly parasympathetic. That breath is also connected to a charge imbalance psychosomatically to an organ system. And that's where, quote unquote, this energy gets stuck. So when we breathe in, we can do an overall full body breath exercise just to allow whatever needs to go to be oxygenated to create that space of the imbalanced tension. Sometimes we'll have tremble, sometimes we'll have shakes, sometimes we'll yell, sometimes we'll cry, sometimes, that's a fucking panic attack. We'll do these things and the body will be able to give it space.
But I want to say this because I think this is really important. Anytime we do the testing that we do, specifically your style of testing, integrative response testing, and someone tests well for breath work, I always, will say, here's a resource. Hence, if they're in Jersey, I recommend Eric for breath work. But the thing is it's two things. One, if you don't feel willing to be vulnerable enough, you're not going to benefit from it. So if you are willing to be vulnerable, but maybe you feel more comfortable doing it one to one, private in your own home versus in a group, you have to decide these things because when you go through and you have this, you do this breath work and your body is going to try to release, that could be like hysterical laughter. It could be hysterical crying. It could be screaming. It could be punching. It could be kicking. It's probably not pretty. And you have to be vulnerable enough to say, like, I don't care if I'm fucking ugly crying. I don't care if I'm kicking or punching or screaming shit on the top of my lungs. Like, I'm willing to go there. Because the last thing you want to do is induce that breath work and then fucking hold it in more because you can almost like, I don't want to
It's got
say,
to be, you got to match the energy. It's like a homeopathy. It's a self-induced homeopathy when you think about it. So like
yeah.
cures like in homeopathy. So, you know, and
But
it
I feel like you
doesn't,
can fuck your system up a little bit if you're like, I'm going to do this thing, aka the breath work, to release this, but I'm not really ready to release it. And then like your mind is kind of like, what the fuck are you doing?
it's not what you do, but how you do it.
Truth, truth. Um, so one other thing that I want to mention, so this panic attack that I had was the second one in my life. The first one, if you remember, Nick, was
No, I
during
don't remember.
ah,
I don't remember this.
that morning, what I told you, was it that morning that I told you I
Yeah.
didn't love you? Oh yeah, it
Yeah.
was fucking hot
I've
as
never
crap.
loved you. And I'm sitting there like, okay,
Took it like a
great.
champ.
Sounds awesome,
So
babe.
this was during
You go have a fantastic day.
Dr. Joe Dispenza. So for those of
Hmm.
you that don't know who Joe Dispenza is, he is the doctor who he was paralyzed and he healed himself through meditation and breath work. And now he hosts these events all over the world, all, all times of the year. And it's a deep immersive in meditation. And I did the kaleidoscope meditation. And later that day, I ended up having a panic attack that was actually, I had it, still felt really off. And then I ate something and it all dissipated. And I felt like more calm in my body than I did in a really long time. So I was sitting there and I was like, damn, this is blood sugar correlated. So, AKA, this panic attack was correlated to releasing something out of my pancreas because your pancreas regulates your blood sugar. And so, what's kind of interesting, if you get into the neurogermanic medicine, the psychosomatics of the pancreas, is when you can't digest life, you feel pressure, you feel resistance. And when I learned that, I was like, oh man, that is loaded because that is just something that not being able to digest life was something I felt a lot as in childhood. And then as I then became an
And life,
entrepreneur,
to make it more easily understandable, life's joy. You can't, it's always, life's always a fucking struggle. Like there's
yeah,
always
life is
something to do.
hard,
There's always
life
a
is a
problem. Like
struggle.
that you can't just experience joy.
Yeah.
That's not being able to process life. That's what it's really
And the
meaning.
pressure part of it was just being an entrepreneur, feeling like even though Nick and I were in this together, like he would always ask me, he's like, why do you feel like it's all on you? And it wasn't logical. It was just that's the way that I was programmed at that time. Is just like, I'm responsible for all of these employees. I'm responsible for all these patients. I'm responsible for this building. I'm responsible for everything. I'm responsible for people's outcomes. I'm responsible for people's happiness. And hence one of the reasons why we downsized our business after we had a child was because I was like, I can't operate this way and be able to be a good parent. And obviously I had no idea at that time that that was taking me on such a significant life journey of my own personal growth and development. But the point that I'm trying to make here is that, these panic attacks are sometimes helping you to release things as a whole, but sometimes they're actually helping you to release things that are very specific programs, belief systems, traumas that are trapped in very, very specific organs or parts of your body.
So going back, it's not what you do, but how you do it. You know, you have a panic attack. Most people would try to stop it because it doesn't feel good. So then your body, the universe gave you an opportunity to heal a lot of shit, but you said, nope, not going to. Okay, boom. You have a panic attack. You actually allow to feel it. You allow it to pass through. Awesome. You just had a huge release through the body. But did you capitalize on, like you said, where that was actually connected to? What organ system? Where did you feel that panic inside of you? And because every single space is intelligently, geopositionally connected with the mind. So, the space of the pancreas, for instance, that's connected to not actually allowing yourself to process life, to experience the joy that joy's just another balanced feeling, joy, gratitude, love.
Mm-hmm.
Happiness and sadness is the imbalanced version. People mistake joy for that. So being able to actually live a joyous life. Okay, well, now let's use that for your mental well-being. So just because you allowed the body is the last part of that process. So let's go higher up. The cycles could still be running. So
Mm-hmm.
let's go up and be able to use that into the mind. Like where do you have a belief system that life can't be joyous, that you can't just live in a state of gratitude and love and joy? And then let's go even higher up into the spirit aspect. Where are you not serving yourself? Where are you not being inspirational to be able to actually live that joyous life? So
It's
a panic attack can give us so much opportunity to grow, to heal, to love. And I think that's one of the biggest things is understanding that there are no mistakes. Like we're talking about the stroke with your mom, like the stroke with the thalamus. The thalamus is the relay center of the brain. It's being able to take all of that information from making decisions to be in an inspired life, to have a balanced mind, to allow that mental to go through and to relay to serve the body. And
Mhm.
if there's such a disconnect between not wanting to live, not wanting to serve thyself, well, then we have death.
Mhm.
And that's the aspect of stroke because stroke is connected to blood flow, and blood flow is literally the
Life.
channeling of life,
Yeah.
of love.
Yeah. Yeah. And two things that I want to mention quickly that are important is one, um, this I want to talk just go back really quick to the whole idea of the pancreas, like can't digest life, can't experience joy. Um, uh, this is one of the reasons why there is a correlation with eating disorders because eating disorders are essentially a form of self-inflicted pain. So when you think you're deserving of struggle, deserving of pain, you have a tendency to not eat because it's a version of creating pain, discipline for yourself. And this is something that goes back to blood sugar dysregulation, which then correlates back to a specific program trauma negative experience that can be held in that pancreatic tissue. And I want to say that just because I see that pattern very often. And nowadays, I think a lot of people are switching from quote unquote like eating disorders to intermittent fasting, or restrictive elimination diets in the world of functional medicine, integrative medicine. And it's like a different version of creating that
It
same
can
type
be
of
that.
pain.
It's slightly different if it's more body dysmorphia. Um,
I just think
but
that body
yeah,
dysmorphia is more common than people are willing to admit. I sure as hell wasn't willing to admit that. But it's like with social media and the comparison game, now we have AI and filters enhancing people's bodies. And it's like, will I ever look that good without plastic surgery? So I think that I just wanted to make circle that point out because,
I've had two kids. My boobs aren't the same. They're never going to be the same.
hey, listen, sensitive subject, bro. Sensitive subject. But one other thing that that happened in the same time of the panic attack that I had, was also something that I want people to be aware of because we could easily sit here and say like, oh, you just need to do breath work and then, or lean into your panic attacks and everything be all good in the hood. It doesn't always work that way. And, sometimes because in the event that there has been this, this fear or this panic or this trauma, it changes your biochemistry, increases your stress hormones, drops your or stress hormones, drops your sex hormones, changes your gut microbiome. There's other things that can happen. So depending on how long this has been going on and how long you feel that you've been experiencing either panic attacks or you've been experiencing anxiety, there could be other things that are going on that can limit your ability to heal. And so, hence, one of the reasons why we do an integrative approach is like, how do we bridge the gap? How do we support the physiology, the biochemistry of the body, but also work on the mind and work on the energetic state so that it all syncs together? But leading up to this panic attack for me, Nick was like, you're switched. It's called neurological switching. I don't want to confuse anybody, but essentially he was saying like my nervous system was off and this neurological switching can happen, and like I felt it, I was in it, and it was like when nothing is making rational sense, like I feel weird or off or worried or anxious or even like a little racy in my heart, but there's not a reason why. Like it's not like Nick and I had a fight or somebody said something mean to me or like something happened. I'm just feeling like that, like walking around or at a restaurant or in a grocery store. And I'm like, what the fuck is this? So I want people to understand that sometimes especially if you're experiencing panic or you're experiencing anxiety that feels irrational, like it's not warranted, like it's coming out of nowhere, it's in really bizarre circumstances, that can sometimes be associated with neurological imbalances, like this thing called neurological switching. It could be energetic imbalances. It could even be physiological imbalances. It could be all of those things. So don't get down on yourself if you really take this podcast to heart and you go, I'm going to get a breathing coach, or I'm going to do some breath work, or I'm going to do these things, I'm going to lean into my panic attack, I'm not taking meds anymore. And if you do those things and you're like, fuck, this ain't working for me, understand that there might be other layers to this.
Well,
There is,
and it's not that it's necessarily an only or.
yes,
It can be both. You can do the breath work, but you'll
yes.
get even better results if you support the body and the mind. Because the breath, like I was saying before, your breath is the tool that connects the two. It's what actually it's your breath is the channel of ether. So it's actually taking that information from the mind and transferring it through the body.
Mm-hmm.
So breath work is very powerful because you're changing up that process, but you know, clinically speaking, you need to support the mind and you need to support the body through the process to get the best results.
Yeah. And the main thing that we want you guys to take away from this is that this is about shifting your perception of a panic attack. It's about taking the step back to say, my body is doing exactly what it needs to do. And this is actually helping me to release something that no longer serves me.
So don't fear it, use it, be more empowered.
Be more empowered. It's the same thing. I use this phrase a lot and I love it. And it's personally been very empowering to me. It's like rejection is redirection. It's all about your perception. If you have something that happens to you, you lose your job, you lose, get a divorce, you lose your boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever it is, you know, the
Your wife tells you
rejection.
that she doesn't love you and has never loved you. I'm like, okay, okay.
So the rejection of that circumstance, that person is usually redirecting you to your path, the path that's more appropriate, the path that's more aligned. And so that's a simple perception shift is like, okay, this challenging thing just happened. I just got triggered. I just got upset. I just got scared. I just feel rejected. And now, okay, let me take the step back to see where this is redirecting me so I can turn a challenge into opportunity. And it's the same idea. It's okay, I had this panic attack. Now I'm going to sit back and I'm going to know that this happened for a reason. This is here to help me release something that no longer serves me. This is actually here to benefit me. And I'm going to lean into it and I'm going to reframe the idea and change the name of it. Don't like cost us calling or society calling it a panic attack is part of the problem. If you look at it as a release, an energetic release, a breath release, an emotional release, even if you switch the name of it, that's going to help you to even shift the perception around it. All
Yeah.
right, drop. Nick's got nothing.
Be be empowered. Be you, man.
All right, guys, we hope you enjoyed this three-part series, all inspired by my mom. And for those of you wondering, she's doing really well. She officially has mobility back in her left leg. She was able to stand. We're still working on mobility of the left arm. She's in better spirits. She is not needing pain medication. Cognitively, she is doing really well. It will be a bit of a work in progress for her to, be able to articulate the way she used to, but overall things are moving in the right direction and we're very grateful for FlexBeam. Shout out to FlexBeam. We're so grateful for Amp Coil. We are so grateful for Cellcore, their supplements, Full Scripts for all the other supplements, Apex Energetics, for PhytoBrain E. like
Fighter
there's
Brand's
been
pretty
yeah,
amazing.
so many amazing things that we've been able to put together for her healing process. And honestly, the body never ceases to amaze me with how fucking amazing, brilliant, resilient it is. So yeah, we hope you enjoyed this. We hope you're inspired. And yeah, we'll see you on the next podcast.